ओम श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः। ओम समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। हरि ओम. There is a deep connection between the name and the named. The name brings to our mind the image of the person thought of, and the more one thinks, the more consistent the impressions. Example: when I say flower, you immediately conceive a mental bonding with the Lord. You immediately conceive a mental picture of a flower. This is the sole principle behind association. The 1000 names of Lord Vishnu are meant to invoke a sense of bonding with the Lord, who's the most intimate one, whether we recognize it or not. Yet, how often and how deeply do we call out to Him? The meanings of the names given out here will help in understanding the magnitude and depth of Godhood. Vishnu Sahasranam was taught by Bhishma, lying on the bed of arrows to Yudhishthir. It brought joy and solace to both. May it do the same to you as well. Reading of the book authored by Param Poojya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda ji of Chinmaya Mission. 1000 Ways to the Transcendental Vishnu Sahasranam. The infinite is one. It can only be one. Its manifestation is the world of plurality, with its endless varieties of names and forms. Just as all forms that have been created from gold are also gold, so too the world of forms can only be His own manifestations. In fact, the effects have no existence apart from the cause. The infinite alone can readily be comprehended by the sense organs, the mind, and the intellect of man at his present state of consciousness. The attempt of the spiritual student is to transcend his present instruments of perception and awake to the higher in him, from where he can experience the one objectless awareness. This great reality behind the universe, though immediately experienced by the great rishis, they were helpless in directly defining, explaining, or demonstrating it to their students. All such indications pointing out the infinite through the world of manifested finite objects are His glory only. Each one of them is a glory of the Lord, which is considered in religion as a sacred name of the Lord. In short, these 1000 names of Vishnu provide us with 1000 clear arrow marks rising from the known, indicating the unknown. Contemplation upon these can deepen our faith in, broaden our devotion to, and steel our understanding of the all-pervading reality, Vishnu. The finite is approached by the devotees, bhaktas, through love, bhakti, and by philosophers, acharyas, through contemplation, vichara. The differences in their techniques of approach are the essential differences ordered by the types of vehicle employed by them. The devotees approach the temple of their love through the heart, while the philosophers storm the citadel of truth with reason and logic. They explore the reality with the head, whatever be the means employed, and the instruments pressed into service till they reach the last lap of their pilgrimage. All seekers need, in one form or other, props, ashray to maintain a continuous and efficient play of their instruments of sadhana. The Sahasranam gives to them both 1,000 props. Each phrase here has its appeal to the devotee, and each one of them has also a suggestion to rocket the contemplative intellect to sublime heights of understanding. Since the devotees have different forms to contemplate upon according to the Lord of their heart, we have different Sahasranamas available to us. Shiva Sahasranam, Lalita Sahasranam, Sri Ram Sahasranam, to mention but a few. Of all of them, no doubt, Vishnu Sahasranam is the most popular one today among the Hindus. Acharya Shankar reached the feet of his Guru, Sri Govinda Padacharya, and on the banks of Narmada, the Nambutiri boy from Kaladi got initiated into the secrets of the Mahavakyas. At the end of his short but intense study, Shankar, the inspired missionary, wanting to fulfill his glorious work, craved for the blessings of his teacher. Govinda Pada Acharya tested Shankar by ordering him to write an exhaustive commentary bhashya upon the Vishnu Sahasranam. He accomplished this great task, and the very first work of the Upanishadic commentator Shankar, the greatest Hindu missionary of the 7th century, thus came to see the light of the day. Govinda Padacharya, satisfied with the proficiency of the student, blessed him and set him on the road of service and action, earning the grace of the teacher and the blessings of Lord Vishnu. Sri Shankar inaugurated an incomparable revival movement of the decadent culture of the 7th century Hinduism. We shall here follow closely Shankara's commentary and also draw our material from the Puranic literature that has an endless store of appeal to the hearts of all devotees. There are, no doubt, slight differences here and there between the texts now popular in the north and the south. These differences are of no consequence at all. Similarly, we find very slight differences in the ritualism generally adopted before starting the chanting of or archana with the Vishnu Sahasranam. The Vishnu Sahasranam was composed by Sri Vedavyasa, the author of the Puranas, and we meet this great chant in his classical work, the Mahabharata. Prince Yudhishthir, the eldest of the Pandavas, at the end of the war, approached Bhishma Pitamaha when the mighty grandsire of the Kuru family was lying on the bed of arrows, unconquered and inconquerable, awaiting the sacred hour of his departure to the feet of the Lord. Yudhishthira, the righteous, asked 6 questions, and Bhishma, the constant devotee of Krishna, the gigantic man of action, calmly answered them all. This is how we find the 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu introduced in the immortal classic of the Hindus, the Mahabharata. Yudhishthir, as a righteous man of spiritual inclination, with the moral integrity of a careful mortal, asks quite an interesting set of questions, which are typical queries which the heart of a seeker will always ask. Question 1. Kimekam Daivatam Loke? Who is the greatest Lord in the world? Answer 1. Pavitranam Pavitram Yaha, Mangalanam Cha Mangalam, Daivatam Devatanam Cha, Bhutanam Yo Avyayaf Pita. He who is the very sanctity which sanctifies all sacred things, he who is the most auspicious, he who is the God of gods, he who is the eternal Father of all creatures, is the one God Vishnu. Kim Vapyakam Parayanam, who is the one refuge of all for all. Answer to Paramam Yo Mahat Teja, Paramam Yo Mahat Tapa, Paramam Yo Mahat Brahma, Paramam Yav Parayanam. He who is the great effulgence, he who is the great controller, he who is the supreme all-pervading truth, he who is the highest goal, Paramayan, highest goal, the Lord Vishnu. Question 3. Stuvantam kam prapnir manva shubham. By glorifying whom can man reach the auspiciousness, purity, peace and prosperity? Answer 3. Jagat Prabhum Devadevam Anantam Purushottamam Stuvan Nama Sahasrena Purushasya Tatotthitaha. The Supreme Purush who is ever up and doing for the welfare of all, the Lord of the world, the endless Sri Mahavishnu. Question 4. Kamarchantaf Prapnuyur Manava Shubham. By worshipping whom can man reach auspiciousness, peace and prosperity? Answer 4. Tameva charchayan nityam bhaktya purusham avyayam stuvan nama sahasrena purushasya tatotthitaha. By meditating upon by worshipping and by prostrating at the same Purush, man can reach true auspiciousness. Question 5. Ko dharmas sarva dharmanam bhavatah paramo matah. Kim, what is, in thy opinion, the greatest dharma? Question 6. Kim japan muchyate jantur janma samsara bandhanat. By doing japa of what can creatures go beyond the bonds of samsara? Answer 5 and 6. Anadinidhanam Vishnum Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Lokadhyaksham Stuvan Nityam Sarvadukkhati Bhavave. Both questions are answered here. The greatest dharma is the one Vishnu who has neither a beginning Adi nor an end Nidhanam. The Supreme Lord of the world, all creatures can go beyond the bonds of samsara, and he goes beyond all sorrows, who daily chants the Sahasranam and within glorifies the knower of the world, Lokadhyakshah. The Supreme is described as that form which the whole world of names and forms had risen in the beginning of creation, that in which the world continues to exist, that into which alone the world can merge back during the dissolution pralay. This Supreme is Vishnu. After thus answering all questions, his 1,000 names, said Vishnu, I shall now advise you. Please listen to them with all attention. This is how the sacred hymn, called as the 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu, is introduced in the Mahabharata. The Supreme cannot be defined, and since he is the very substratum of all qualities, he cannot be denominated by any name or indicated by any term or defined in any language or ever expressed even vaguely in any literary form. He is beyond both the known and the unknown. He is the very illumining principle of consciousness that illuminates all experiences. And yet, he has many manifestations, and therefore he can have infinite names in terms of his manifestations. Definitions should directly describe the thing defined, and here we have 1,000 indirect definitions with which the real, the infinite, is being indicated in terms of the unreal and the finite. These 1,000 names of the Lord have been coined and given out by the rishis. They were collected and strung together into a joyous hymn to Vishnu, a garland of devotion and reverence by the poet seer Vyas. Since each of them is thus an indicative definition of the unknown in terms of the known, each term here can rocket us up into the realms of the divine experience only when we have lifted our minds towards it through contemplation. Thus, the Vishnu Sahasranam is employed not only by the devotees in the sweet attitude of sporting with the Lord, but these are also employed by the contemplative students of philosophy as gliders to roam in the realms of inspired higher consciousness. In the Kalisantaran Upanishad, which is one of the minor Upanishads, we find the great devotee Narada approaching Brahmaji to inquire what is the way out for man to evolve in these hard days of extrovertedness, which is quite natural and unavoidable in the Iron Age Kali Yuga. Repetition of the names of Narayan is sufficient enough, was the reply given. Sarvashruti rahasyam gopyam tad shrunu yena kali samsaram tarishtasi bhagavata adipurushasya narayanasya namocharana matrena nirdhuta kalir bhavati. Kalisantaran Upanishad. It is to be carefully noted that in the sixth question the inquiry was, how can creatures realize the highest? Jantu means that which is born. Janana dharma. No. Also, all living creatures are fit for this easy path. Creatures could even include the animal kingdom as it is described in the Puranas in their own poetic language. In the Trikutachala lake, the elephant that was caught by the crocodile is described as having been saved by the Lord. Gajendra Moksha. The story of Jadavarath is yet another example. Shankara in his commentary describes here japa as comprehensive of all the three types: A. That which can be heard by others; B. That which is heard by ourselves; C. That which is mental. Vishnu Sahasranam can be employed in performing japa of all these three kinds. In the following 1,000 names, we meet with, though rarely, some repetitions. Exactly 90 names have been repeated in this great hymn, and of them 74 are repeated twice, 14 are repeated thrice, and again 2 of them are found to be have been repeated 4 times. Sometimes the terms are repeated as such: Vishnu, Vishnu, Shiva, Shiva, etc. And sometimes different words with the same meaning are also employed: Shripati, Madhava, Pushkaraksha, Kamalaksha. These need not be considered as a defect, since this hymn is a chant of His glory. In a chant of glory, stuti, repetitions are acceptable. It is but a style of the emotional heart to repeat its declarations of love. There are exactly 1031 single names of the Lord in the 1000 name chant Sahasranam. The extra 31 names are to be considered each as an objective qualifying Visheshana, the immediately following noun. When one makes Archana to the Lord, the correct dative case is to be used. There are 20 double names in the first 500 names and 10 double names in the second half of the chant. There are 5 in the first 100 names, 12, 16, 30, 46, 55. There are 2 in the second 100 names, 120, 124. There are 4 in the third 100 names, 217, 23, 2, 275. There are 4 in the fourth 100 names, 333, 355, 330. 333, 359, 390, 399, and there are 5 in the fifth 100 names, 404, 427, 429, 450, 454, and 493. In the second half, 6 in the sixth 100, 514, 531, 552, 564, 572, and 573. In the second half, 1 in the seventh 100, 627. In the second half, 3 in the eighth 100, 732, 794, and 799. There is one indeclinable away word used, and it 896 should be used in the dative for Archana as Sanat Namaha. So too, the 929th name is the chant. In the chant, being a plural noun, should be used in Archana as Sadbhyo Namaha. It will also be found as we study the significances of these divine names that Vyasa has employed, sometimes masculine gender, on other occasions feminine gender, and some other times even neutral gender. Wherever it is masculine, it denotes Vishnu, the Lord of Lakshmi, and when it is feminine, it is indicative of his might, glory, or power, Devata, that is manifest everywhere. And when the term is in neutral gender, it means pure Brahman, the infinite glory. This Archana is generally performed by devotees daily. If this is not convenient, they perform this worship at least on their own birthday or eclipse day, or on the day on which the sun moves from the zodiac to another, the Sankranti day. This performance has been prescribed by the Shastra for warding off troubles arising from the position of planets, anger of the rulers, incurable diseases, and ruthless enemies. The highest effect is for purifying the mind and thus gaining more and more inner poise for the sadhaka in meditation. Installation of the Lord. All rituals start in Hinduism with a beautiful function, the installation of the Lord in the devotee's own physical form. This is technically called the Anganyasa and Karanyasa. The installation in the limbs and the installation in the palm. This is a method by which the seeker with willful thoughts and deliberate physical signs sanctifies himself to be a divine temple and installs various sacred deities in himself. This helps the student to realize that though he is worshipping the Lord as a goal or an ideal other than himself, Ved or Anya, in fact, he is to seek his identity with no traces of differentiation, Abheda or Ananya, between himself and the Lord. The final realization is a perfect identity indicated in the Mahavakya I am Brahman, I am Brahma Asmi. Neither in the northern texts nor in the original Mahabharata do we find this subjective installation ceremony Anganyasa prescribed. However, Pandits of ritualism in the south employ the Anganyas, and it being such a beautiful act, so very helpful to the seeker, we give here below the most popular one practiced widely in the south. This installation ceremony declares to the devotees that the enchanting form of Vishnu is to be ultimately realized as one infinite reality without names or forms, in which the recognition of even the distinction of the meditated meditation is to cease. Besides this deep significance, even though it be only for the time being, the student is also given a temporary sense of purity and sanctity in himself. Just as a devotee feels highly inspired in the divine atmosphere of a sacred temple, so too, after the Anganyasa, however shattered we might have been before we entered the puja room, we can artificially work ourselves up into the divine mood of peace and purity. The body itself is rendered as the temple of the Lord, wherein the various limbs become the altars upon which, with a heart of love and faith, the devotee invokes and installs various deities. In this process, in order to bring the full blast of the sacred suggestions to him, the repetition of each of these mantras is emphasized by a corresponding physical sign. The idea is only, as we have already explained, to establish the correct mood for devoted contemplation. अस्य विष्णु सहस्रनाम स्तोत्रस्य वेदव्यास ऋषिः. For this sacred chant, the 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu, Sri Vedavyas is the Rishi. Great mantras of deep spiritual significance and sublime Vedic dignity are not mere poetic compositions by mortal fallible intellects. When a master mind, through meditation, transcends the lower levels of his personality and soars into the higher mental altitudes through his contemplation, there he receives certain revelations which are faithfully repeated by him to the world. Such heard statements, Sutra Shrutam, alone have the power to stand against the onslaught of the intellect, the ravage of time, the forces of criticism, etc. Such statements, when contemplated upon by lesser seekers, they too, in the spiritual cadence of these mantras, get unconsciously uplifted into realms of unknown, and there, there they come to live a world of experiences unfrequented by the ordinary multitudes. The author of the mantra is thus termed in our Vedas as the seer, mantra drashta. Such rishis themselves admit that they did not manufacture, compose, or create the mantra, but they had revelation of my vision, darshanam of the mantra. The mantra drashta, the Rishi is the guru of the seeker who is seeking his path with the help of that particular mantra. The Rishi of a mantra is installed at the roof of the head and the seeker head and the seeker in a state of Vishnu Sahasranam chanting. First of all chants this mantra in his mind and with his right hand thumb, middle finger and ring finger touches the top of his head. Anushtup Chanda. The meter in which the revealed mantra comes to the teacher is also mentioned because it orders the discipline that should be followed while chanting the mantra. Anushtup is the name of the particular meter in which this thousand name chant on Vishnu is sung. The chant is to come out through the mouth and therefore the altar of the meter can be only the mouth. The fingers that were touching the roof of the head now come down to touch significantly the lips, and the mantra B is repeated in the mind by the seeker. See, Sri Vishwarupo Mahavishnu Devata, Lord Vishnu of the form of the entire universe of variegated names and forms, Vishwarupa is the deity of the mantra. Vishnu is the theme of the chant. The Lord of Vaikuntha is the altar at which the devotee is preparing to offer himself in humble dedication and utter surrender. Since Lord Vishnu is to the devotee is the Lord of his heart, the very center of his personality. While chanting mentally, the mantra C, the student, with all sincerity and devotion, installs the Lord in his heart, bringing the fingers from the lips down to touch the center of his bosom. D. Devaki Nandana Srashteti Shakti. Every deity is a manifestation of the mighty omnipotency of the Supreme, the creator and sustainer, Shrashta of Dharma, the son of Devaki, Devaki Nandana, is the manifested power of the Almighty. This creative power of righteousness and peace is installed at the navel navi point therefore the fingers come down from the heart region to the navel. E. Shankhavrun Nandaki Chakriti Kilakam. The mighty creation power invoked and established on the navel region cannot be as such conceived by the mind. Therefore, to nail it down, Kilakam, and establish it in our comprehension, this mantra conceives the power as the Lord, who bears the conch, the sword, named Nandaka, and the discus. This is only to show how the total cosmic power, expressed in terms of our present understanding as creation, sustenance, and destruction, is but a manifestation of the Lord. The conch Shankha represents the call of the reality, the Lord's own declarations stated in the scriptures. Nandaka, the sword that punishes to bring joy, Nandana, into the community, and the destruction without which evolution is impossible, is represented by the concept of the discus chakra. Here, it is also to be noted that the blowing of the conch represents speech, wielding the sword represents action, and the discus that takes off from him at his will represents his thoughts. Thus, this great power installed at the navel expresses itself in the world through speech, action, and thought. To conceive fully this form is to hold firmly the Lord's own feet, and therefore, when this mantra is mentally chanted, the fingers move away from the navel, and with both hands the seeker touches his own feet. Here it is to be carefully noted how the Guru is kept at the roof of the head, the Veda in the mouth, the Lord in the heart, the power in the navel, and thereby the seeker himself becomes so sacred that he prostrates unto himself by holding his own feet. Can there be a better method of preparing the devotee to realize ultimately his identity with the Lord? If Sharangdhanva Gadadhara Ityasram, whenever there is large wealth in a box, it becomes a treasure and it is locked and safely protected. When this divine installation has taken place, the body has become the temple of the Almighty, and therefore it has become a sacred treasure house to be protected. But the seeker in himself has no power to protect, and so he invokes the very weapon Astra. Astra means weapons used by the hand directly at close quarters. Shastra instruments used for long range detonation over which the wielder has no control once they are released. Astra of Vishnu, the protector of the world, to stand by for the defense of the sanctified bosom. Sharanga is the name of the bow, Dhanush of Vishnu, and the mace Gada is another of his weapons. These two form the artillery of defense, which are manned by the Lord Himself. At this moment, when this mantra can be At this moment, when this mantra is mentally chanted, it is significant that the student lifts the palm away from the feet and with stretched out index and middle finger of the right palm snaps them on the open left palm. G. Rathanga Pani Rakshobhyati Netram. Lord Vishnu as Lord Krishna played the part of the charioteer and gained the name rain-handed Rathanga Pani. Ratha chariot, Anga part, Rathanga part of the chariot. Rathanga Pani, one who has part of the chariot in hand. Generally, it is interpreted as the one who has the wheel of the Ratha in hand and symbolizing it with his discus. This is crude, as Parthasarathi, Lord Vishnu, has the reins of the chariot in his hand. A charioteer has to guide every step of every horse in order that the chariot be safe and the travel be pleasant. Of the sense organs, eyes are the most powerful, and once they are well guided, all others also follow their heels. When Lord Vishnu, the charioteer himself, is installed in the eyes, the individual is safe in his spiritual pilgrimage. Therefore, invoking the diviner driver, With reins in his hand, Rathangapani, he is installed in the pair of eyes, and at the moment of mentally chanting this, both the eyes are touched by the tip of the fingers. H. Trisama Samagasthameti Kavacham. He, Trisama, who is glorified by all the three types of Sama songs, Deva, Vrata, Prokta. He who is the very theme that is glorified by the Sama songs, Samagaha. He whose glory itself is the manifested Samaveda Sama. He is none other than the Supreme. This great Lord is installed as an armor to wear the self-protection. While chanting this in the mind, the seeker first touches with the tip of his fingers of each arm the same shoulders, and afterwards crosses the arms in front of him, making fingers of each palm touch the other shoulder, as if he is actually wrapping himself and wearing the divine armor. I. Anandam Brahmeti Yoni. The Supreme Brahman, the infinite bliss, is the very womb yoni of which the universe has emerged out. The process emerged out. The procreated world of endless variety has only one in the eternal Father, and this source is immaculate bliss. When this is chanted, the seeker installs the bliss infinite at the very place of protection in himself. It is a spot in this great divine temple of the body wherein is the one source from which the world has emerged out, manifesting itself as the power of procreation. Taittiriya Upanishad. Vishwarupa iti dhyanam. The entire band of experience gained through the instruments of the body, mind, and intellect in terms of perceptions, emotions, and thoughts glorify body, mind, and intellect in terms of perceptions, emotions, and thought together is indicated by the term Vishwa. He who has manifested to be the total world of experiences, Vishwa, must be therefore be Vishnu Vishwarupa. The cosmic form of the Lord Vishwarupa is the total universe, is the total who is manifested to be the total of experiences, the total universe. Thus, to meditate dhyanam upon him as the whole universe is a method of installing him in our intellect. At this moment, the student locks his finger and sits in meditation. With the right hand fingers, the right shoulder, and with the left hand fingers, the left shoulder. Isha vasyamidam sarvam yatkinchit jagatyam jagat. के ऋतं सुदर्शन कालीति दिग्बन्धः Rhythm, the Lord and his weapon, the discus called Sudarshan, and his annihilating power, time, Kala. These three are the mighty forces that guard this sacred temple. Influence, a temple of life in the seeker at the outer frontiers of his world. Influence, world influence, Dik Bandha. To be truthful and ever to seek it, seek to great reality, Ritam. To discriminate and see the play of the Lord in all situations, Sudarshanam, and to control Sudarshanam and to control the very instrument of time, Kala, which is the intellect in the seeker, is to guard the frontiers of one's spiritual world against the hordes of inimical forces. At this moment, the student snaps his middle finger with the help of his thumb and runs his palm around his head. After all, the universe dwells in our own concept. Shri Mahavishnu Prityarthe Jape Vinyoga. Having thus installed through Sankalpa the Lord in himself and having surrendered himself, then thus having having come under the protecting wings of the mighty Lord. Here is a declaration how he is going to employ himself in it. He is going to engage himself in yoga, in japa, jape vinyoga of the thousand names of the Lord. Now the question is, with what motive should he undertake this chanting? The answer is in the very statement that it is only for the grace Prityarthe of Sri Mahavishnu. After chanting this dedication in the mind, the sadhaka takes a spoon of water, tirtham, in his right palm and pours it to the floor in front of him. A true seeker is not desire ridden for material satisfaction, and therefore he can have only one intention, the grace of the Lord, which will manifest in him as contemplative power. These 12 slogans are chanted for invoking and installing these refreshing and spiritually benign ideas on the limbs of the devotee himself. At this juncture, this makes him inspired sufficiently for higher meditation upon the truth and indicating as indicated and directed by the thousand terms in the Sahasranam. This beautiful subjective ritual is known as installation in the limbs, Anganyasa. Not only that, the student temporarily discovers a new surge of inspiration, but even beginners feel highly relieved, at least temporarily, for from the load of his sense of sins when this is properly performed with the right attitude and devotion. To an extent, the student gains identification, so sarupya with the Lord of his heart, at least at the outer levels of his personality. The meditation stanza. शान्ताकारं भुजगशयनं पद्मनाभं सुरेशं विश्वाधारं गगनसदृशं मेघवर्णं शुभाङ्गं लक्ष्मीकान्तं कमलनयनं योगिभिर्ध्यानगम्यं वन्दे विष्णुं भवभयहरं सर्वलोकैकनाथम्. We meditate upon the Master of the universe, Lord Vishnu, who is ever peaceful, who lies on the great serpent bed, from whose navel springs the lotus of the creative power, who is the controller of the gods, whose form is the entire universe, who is all pervading as the sky, of the hue of the cloud, of fascinating beauty, the Lord of Lakshmi, the lotus eyed, he who dwells in the hearts of the yogis, and who can be approached and perceived through meditation, he who is the destroyer of the fear of samsara. This is the meditation upon the form of the Lord, visualizing Him thus in His all comprehensive nature, the and meditating upon Him, the seeker starts the Vishnu Sahasranam chanting. Stanza 1. Om Vishwam Vishnurvashatkaro Bhutabhavya Bhavat Prabhu Bhutakrut Bhutavrut Bhavo Bhutatma Bhutabhavanaha. Vishwam, he whose manifestation is the whole universe. of forms, the Virat Purush. The cause is always present in the effects, and as such, that form from which the whole universe has emerged out can only be its own manifestation. The whole cosmos of gross forms is his own expression, and therefore he is called as Virat Purush. स एव सर्वभूतात्मा विश्वरूपो यतो अव्ययः. स एव सर्वभूतात्मा विश्वरूपो यतो अव्ययः. सर्वभूतस्थमात्मानं सर्वभूतानि चात्मनि ईक्षते योगयुक्तात्मा सर्वत्र समदर्शनः. This is from Gita 6. Earlier was Vishnu Puran 1.2.69. And Brahmaivedam Vishwamidam Varishtham Purushaivedagam Vishwam. The Sanskrit term Vishwam comes from the root vish, to enter. Thus it means he who has created and entered into the entire universe as the all-pervading reality. It can also mean that into which the entire universe has entered to remain therein established. In the Upanishads we also have in the Upanishads also we have assertions of similar ideas. It is only when intellectually we view the Lord that we come to recognize Him as the cause of the universe. When viewed through contemplation, since the effect is nothing other than the cause, there can be no world other than Him. In fact, there is nothing other than the Supreme. In the Mandukya Upanishad we read, Omkara evedagam sarvam. In Gita, Om Itteksharam Brahmo. Om Ittekaksharam Brahmo. To Vishnu. The term Vishnu is dissolved as Veveshti Vyapnoti iti Vishnu. That which pervades everywhere is Vishnu. That which has the nature of pervasiveness is Vishnu. He is the one who pervades all and nothing ever pervades him. Ishavasyamidam sarvam. All this is indwelt, pervaded by the Lord. This very same idea is described in the typical style of the Puranas in the incarnation of the Lord as Vamana, as the short boy, who with his 3 feet measured the entire universe. Because of this act, the Lord got the name Vishnu. Says Mahabharat, Vishnu Puran 3.1 says, because this whole world has been pervaded by the glory of the great self, he is named Vishnu, from the root vish, to enter, to pervade. यस्माद्विष्टमिदं तत्सर्वं तस्य शक्त्या महात्मनः तस्मादेवोच्यते विष्णोर्विषयर्धातोः प्रवेशनात्. The root wish means to enter. Praveshanam, the entire world of things and beings is pervaded by him, and the Upanishad emphatically consists in its mantra, whatever that is there in the world of change. Yatkincha jagatyam jagat isha. Hence it means that he is not limited by space, desha, time, kala or substance vastu. The Vashatkara. In the ritualistic portion of the Vedas we find many mantras ending with Vashat, and they are used in pouring devoted and dedicated oblations. Thus, the term Vashatkara means he who is invoked and for propitiating whom the oblations are poured in Vedic ritualism using mantras ending with Vashat. Also, Vashatkara can mean yajna in its association, and thus the term in its suggestion can signify he who is of the form of the yajna. In the Upanishads also we find this meaning endorsed when the Upanishad mantra says Yajna by Vishnu, Yajna itself is Vishnu. Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu, he who is the Lord Prabhu of the past Bhuta, the future Bhavya and present Bhavat. Time is the concept of the intellect. It expresses itself in the interval between experiences. Experiences are registered as thoughts, and thoughts are ever changing. This very change is known and experienced by us. The knower of the change must be something other than the change. Thus, he who is the illuminator of all changes, meaning the consciousness, Atman, is the Lord Vishnu. He is the one who is not conditioned by time. Bhutakrut, the creator Krut of all creatures, Bhuta. This word can be dissolved in two ways. One who creates the creatures, Bhutani Karoti iti Bhutakrut, or one who annihilates all creatures, Bhutani Krandati iti Bhutakrut. In both these cases, Krantati, Brahman, the Supreme, is the one reality that seems to function as the creator, sustainer, or destroyer. When he functions through different gunas in the total mind, functioning through a preponderance in Rajogun, he becomes the creator. Through Sattvagun, the sustainer, and through Tamogun, he himself expresses as the destroyer. Subjectively, the Atman functioning through my own mind and intellect is I, the individuality. My personality entirely depends upon the quality and texture of my own thoughts. I myself become according to the moods of my mind. The creator, sustainer, and annihilator of my world of experiences. He who manifests and functions in these three aspects is the Supreme Vishnu. Tvam Karta Sarvabhutanam, Vishnu Puran 1.4.14. Bhutabhrut, one who nurtures and nourishes all beings, living creatures in all their attitudes, in this great reality, and therefore he is called as Bhutabhrut. In Gita, there is an elaborate description of this idea in the 15th chapter, where the Lord points out how he, as the light of the sun in the sun, fertility in the earth, growth in the plants, nourishment in food, heat in fire, becomes himself the eater, and therefore how he himself presides over all the function of the body and mind, and apparently nurtures and nourishes the creatures who are in fact nothing other than himself. Bhava, one who becomes bhavati iti bhava, himself into the movable and the immovable beings and things in the world. He is the pure existence in all the sentient organisms and the insentient objects in the universe. Hence, he is indicated by the term Bhava, Bhutatma. He is the Atman of all the beings, the very be in all the living beings. Just as the same universal space plays in all rooms as the room space, or in all pots as the pot space, so the infinite life playing through any given vehicle is called the Atman of the vehicle. It is well known that space everywhere is both one and the same, so too the universal soul. Hmm? So too in our reality, so too the one reality sports us through different Atmans. This one universal soul is called in Vedanta the Supreme Brahman, Parabrahman. In Bhagavata, the Lord is addressed as you are the one self in all living creatures, ever illumining all their experiences. In Kathopanishad, the one enchanting truth that reveals in every form, manifesting in plurality. एको वशी सर्वभूतांतरात्मा रूपम रूपम प्रतिरूपो बहिश्च. भूत भावनः, one who creates and multiplies the creatures, meaning the one who is the cause for the birth and who is responsible for the growth of all living creatures. भूतात्मा परमात्मा च मुक्तानां परमागतिः. अव्ययः पुरुषः साक्षी क्षेत्रज्ञ क्षेत्रज्ञोक्षर एव च. भूतात्मा, one with an extremely pure essence, one who is not affected the least by the impurities of Maya. The self is beyond all vasanas and therefore he cannot be affected by any one of the manifestations of Maya, such as thoughts of the intellect, emotions of the mind, and the perceptions of the body. Immaculate is ever the self, and so he is termed as the pure self, Bhutatma. Paramatma, the supreme, meaning that which transcends all limitations and perfections of matter. In short, the transcendental reality. The spirit is other than matter, and that in its presence the vestures of matter, borrowing their dynamism from him, play their parts rhythmically at all times. This has been the assertion found chorously repeated in all the Upanishads and in the entire Vedantic literature. Shankara in Atmabodha points out that the self is other than the three bodies, Dehendriya, Manobuddhi, Prakrutibhyo Vilakshanam, and that he functions in the microcosm as a king in the nation. तद्वृत्ति साक्षीणां विद्यात् आत्मानं राजवत् सदा. It was also said therein that matter borrows its energy from the spirit and continues its activity as the world from the sun. As the world from the sun, Surya अलोकमया जनाः. सूर्यालोकमया जनाः. Atmabodh, statement 20. Kathopanishad and the Gita guide us from the outer levels of our personality, stage by stage, into the innermost sanctum, and therefore the teacher declares he, the declare is he, the infinite transcending all, reigning in his own glory. इंद्रियाणि पराण्याहुरिन्द्रियेभ्यः परं मनः मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिर्यो बुद्धेः परतस्तु सः. Gita 3.42. In short, that which remains other than the cause and effect, Maya and matter, is he, the Param Atman. In in Vishnu Puran, this Supreme is glorified as Maha Vishnu Paramatma. Vishnu Puran 6.4.10 Paramatma च सर्वेषाम् आधारः परमेश्वरः विष्णुर्नाम सर्ववेदेषु वेदान्तेषु च गीयते. मुक्तानां परमागतिः Muktanam Paramagatihi, he who is the final goal that is reached by all the liberated souls. The limitations and bondage lived through by man are in fact the destiny of the matter vestures. Through delusion of understanding, of ununderstanding, we identify with them and come to suffer the consequent sense of imperfections. To liberate ourselves from the thraldom of matter is to realize the self, as the truth is defined as the supreme goal of the emancipated. This goal to be attained is called the Gati in Sanskrit. The supreme goal, Paramagatihi, would necessarily be then that goal, having reached which there is no return. There where having gone man never return. That sacred place is my seat, yad gatvana nivartante tadhama paramam. Gita chapter 15, statement 6. In Gita chapter 8, statement 16, even more explicitly the same idea has been asserted by Sri Krishna when he says, O son of Kunti, having reached me, there shall be no more any rebirth. Mamupetyatu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. Again, he defines the final goal as that having reached no return again. Yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuyah. Gita chapter 15, statement 4. Avyayah. Vyaya means destruction. Destruction cannot be without change. Therefore, that which is without destruction of Vyayah is the changeless, the indestructible, and therefore changeless, can never have any modifications. Parinama. For modifications is but the death of a previous condition and the birth of a new condition. The eternal and the immutable Avyaya is the supreme Satchit Ananda, and every other thing and being come under the hammer of change. The medium in which all these changes are sustained in Brahman, the immutable. The Upanishads glorify him as Ajaro, Amaro, Avyayah, without old age, death, or change. Purushaha, one who dwells in the fourth city. Puri Shete iti Purushaha. Puri, herein, metaphorically, the rishis conceive our body as a fortress with 9 gateways. Navadvare Pure Dehi. Gita chapter 5, statement 13. Stanza 13. And declare the one who rules within it like a king in the is the self. This term can also be dissolved in two more different ways, giving more and more suggestions to the nature of the self. Thus, Purusha can mean that which was before all creatures. Pura asit iti Purushaha. Pura asit iti Purushaha, or it can be one who completes and fulfills the existence everywhere, meaning without whom existence is impossible. Purayati iti Purushaha. This Atman remains in the bodies of living creatures as their individuality, Jiva, and in all the activities, physical, mental, and intellectual. Atman is not in fact involved, but he is therein only an observer of all that is happening. This will become clear in the following discussion. Sadhaka Sakshi, witness in everyday life. He is a witness who, without any mental reservation or personal interest, observes and watches what is happening in a given field of experience. Sakshat Drashtari Sakshi Syat. Amar Ghosh. The knower in every bosom is the same Supreme Self, says Lord Krishna. Gita chapter 3 stanza 3. Chapter 13 stanza 3. Though thus consciousness illumines everything, it is only a witness, as it knows no change. Just as the sun illumines everything in the world, and yet the sun is not affected by the condition of the things it is illumining, so too Vishnu, the Supreme, illumines all without itself undergoing any change. According to Panini Sutras, the word Sakshi is derived from Sa Akshi, meaning direct perceiver. Sakshat Ikshate, it is Sakshi. Kshetradnyaha, one who knows the body and all the experiences from within the body, is the knower of the field. Kshetradnyaha, as Brahma Puran would put it, bodies are fields and Atman illumines them all without an effort, and therefore is called knower of the field, Kshetradnyaha. Aksharaha, indestructible things which are finite are necessarily conditioned by time and space. The infinite is unconditioned, and so it is Aksharaha. Since it is indestructible, it cannot come under the methods of universal destruction arising from nature and through the willful actions of man. It cannot be cleaved by instruments of destruction, nor can fire burn it, nor water drench it, nor air dry it. Gita chapter 2, stanza 23. It is also indicated that the Supreme Brahman is the Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Gita chapter 8 stanza 3. Please note that in the stanza there is the extra word only eva used, indicating that Kshetradnyaha is the Akshara. There is no difference between them both, the knower of the field and the field. Yogo Yogavidam Neta Pradhana Purusheshwaraha Narasimhavaku Shriman Keshavah Purushottamah. Yoga, the one who is to be known or realized through yoga by withdrawing the sense organs from their objects of preoccupation. When the mind of the seeker becomes quietened, he is lifted to a higher plane of consciousness wherein he attains yoga, meaning wherein he realizes the reality. At such moments of equanimity and mental quiet, yoga is gained. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Gita chapter 2 stanza 48. Since he is experienced by yoga, he is known as yoga. Yoga vidam neta, one who guides all the activities of the man who knows yoga. Yogavit, to all men of realization, he who is the ideal is the Supreme Lord. Just as our activities are today ordered by our selfishness and individuality, the ideal that commands and orders all activities in the bosom of a man of realization is his God consciousness. This realm of experience is Mahavishnu. In the Gita also we find the same idea expressed in the language of emotion when the Lord says, "Those who contemplate upon me with total dedication, their duty welfare and their daily welfare and spiritual progress I shall bear. Ananyashchintayanto mam ye janah paripasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham." Gita chapter 9 stanza 22. Pradhan Purusheshwarah, Lord of both Pradhana and Purusha. The term Pradhana means Maya, the total cause for the entire universe of forms. Purusha indicates the individuality in each one of us, the Jiva. Lord Ishvara means the Master, Ishate iti Ishvaraha. The Lord of Maya and Jiva means the one who makes both these possible to exist and function, the one infinite reality, which itself manifests as Maya, Jiva and Ishvara, is the essence in Vishnu. Narasimha Vapuhu, one whose form is half human and half lion. This is the famous fourth incarnation of Lord Vishnu, which he took in order to destroy the atheistic tyrant Hiranyakashipu and bless his devotee Prahlad. Shriman, one who is always with Shri. Mother Shri is Mother Lakshmi. In the Puranic terminology, Lakshmi stands for all powers, all faculties, the total manifested power, potential in the omnipotent is Lakshmi. These powers are ever in him and therefore he is Shri Man. Keshavaha, he who has beautiful and graceful locks of hair. Kesha. प्रशस्ता केशाः सन्त्यस्यति केशवः यस्मात् त्वयैव दृष्टात्मा हृतकेशे जनार्दनः तस्मात् केशवनाम्ना त्वं लोके ज्ञेयो भविष्यसि is similar as in Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna's form Or it can also mean one who destroyed the demon Keshin, who was sent to destroy the child Krishna by his uncle Kansa. This interpretation is endorsed by the Vishnu Puran. 5.16.23 यस्मात् त्वयैव दृष्टात्मा हतः केशी जनार्दनः तस्मात् केशव नाम्ना त्वं लोके ज्ञेयो भविष्यसि. Purushottamah, the constitution of the individuality, Jiva. When analyzed, we find that it is made up of both the perishable matter and the imperishable spirit. The spirit expressing through matter is the individuality, Jiva. Reflected moon is the moon of the heavens dancing on the surface of water. Just as the moon is something different from its reflection and the water surfaces, so too the self is, in its transcendental nature, something different from both matter, the perishable, and the spirit, the imperishable, ever playing in matter. This transcendental truth is indicated by the term the Supreme Purusha, Purushottama. सर्वशिवस्थाणोर्भूतादिर्निधिरव्ययः सम्भवो भावनो भर्ता प्रभुरीश्वरः. Sarvah, he who is the all, he being the one cause from which have sprung forth all things, and being, he being the one, he sprung from all things and beings. He himself is the all. In Mahabharat Udyog Parva 70.12, we read, as he is the origin and end of all, wherein end of all, whether existent or otherwise, and as he at all times cognizes all, he is called Sarva. All waves rise from the same ocean, and therefore the ocean is the very essence in all waves. Sharvaha, the auspicious one, meaning the one who gives auspiciousness to those who hear of him. To those who have a vision of him, and to those who meditate upon him. Shivaha, the one who is extremely pure, in him can never be any contamination of the imperfection of rajas and tamas. Non-apprehension of reality is tamas, and misapprehension of reality constitute the rajas. In the reality itself, there can be neither of them. It is Brahman, he is Shiva. Sa Brahma Sa Shiva. So the Upanishad declares of the absolute oneness which is Vishnu. Sthanu. Generally, this term sthanu is used for the permanent pillars that mark the frontiers of a country. They are permanent, immovable, fixed. The truth that remains thus firm and emotionless, without movement, permanently established in its own realm of purity, is called by the term sthanu, the pillar, eternal or pervading.
Jaya Shri Ram, Jaya Raghuram, Janaki Jeevan Sundar Ram, Devaganarchita.
हाँ हरि ओम नमस्कार.